want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
That's right.
Vice President Harris. Thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third
Come on,
time.
girl.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country.
Oh,
There's never been anything like it.
It's so
They're
extreme.
destroying our country. Then they come up with things like
Like
what
what?
she just said.
What she
For
just
many years, a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park fight. They admitted, they said, they
Look
pled guilty.
Come on, yeah. Come on.
And I said, well, if they
Come
pled
on.
guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back
still
years,
doubting
40,
it.
50 years ago, because there's nothing new. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again.
Where's
It's
the
gonna be
data?
bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this.
Bro, you about was in
She
debt.
is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had. A horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad that she can't get away with that.
Time's up.
I want to respond.
You just babbling on.
Briefly. Clearly,
Weak and wrong, man. You're weak and wrong.
Donald Trump.
Put it on a shirt.
What I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible. One who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan
And that's,
that is
yeah.
about allowing people
help
to
a
be
lot of
able to
people.
pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris.
forward.
Thank you. Let's turn to policy.
Right.
Let's turn
We
to
have to
policy.
move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
Plan to defund the police. She has a plan.
Where
to
your
confiscate
data at?
everybody's gun.
President Trump,
She
you
has
do
a
have
plan
to move on.
to not
Weak
allow
and wrong.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's what her plan is until just recently.
I just need to respond.
President Trump,
No, the
President
former
Trump.
president has
No,
said
I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I just
gonna
need to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he
President
said
Trump, this is
multiple
now your
Yes.
third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care. Always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working on things, we're going to do it and we're going to replace it. But remember this, I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be? Never going to be great. Or do I let it rot?
He wasn't going to
And I
change
felt I had
nothing
an
but the name.
obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot
Very
of
good
people
people.
in this
The best people.
administration. We read about the man who ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of. But let me just explain.
He's a kid. He's a toddler. They got bad ones. They're worse.
As good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing, but it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
What is your plan?
Yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
Right.
Concept of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better.
Come on, moderator.
And there are concepts and options we have to do.
But what is your
About
plan?
it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president
I
has
know that's right.
I've made
Take your
very clear
time,
on
Madam
this issue of
Vice
fracking.
President.
And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time. When I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny
Mm-hmm.
if a child had asthma,
Mm-hmm.
if someone was a breast cancer
Yep.
survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month.
Come on now.
Vice President, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people.
Speak it, girl.
Understanding that the value I
When?
bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the
Right.
plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice
Fastest
President
roll up
Harris,
in
thank
terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important.
He don't even know what she talking about.
And number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare. Much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people. Private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People are
Trump.
paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You
Mm-hmm.
ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go, we know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America